All right, so you clock that a room has gone from tense to unsafe in a period of about 3 seconds before your training begins to kick in. That gap between when you notice it and those 3 seconds later is really where this starts. And I almost left nursing as a result of an incident that I experienced many years ago. What kept me from walking out that day was not a pep talk. It was three specific things that I didn't know yet, and I really wish someone had told me from day one. Every shift you work without knowing them is really just a shift that you're just one bad moment away from finding out the hard way. I'm Scott. I'm a nurse. I am a former firefighter and EMT. And today I'm going to give you three practical tips, three tactical tips that you can use today to do differently after that same incident. This is not vague advocacy language by any stretch, but these are actual lines that you can use today and steps you can take before your next shift starts. So here's the cost of not having these things ready. You'll be building your response in the moment rather than having them decided upon in advance. When you experience something in the moment, your adrenaline is dumping, your cortisol is releasing, and your body goes into a weird state that you just can't really fully describe. You start having tunnel vision, you start feeling just a little bit uncomfortable. If it gets really bad, that's where tunnel vision sets in, that's where tunnel hearing sets in, auditory exclusion, where everything just shuts off. You start seeing stars, even, kind of that weird feeling, if you will. When you get to that point, you are not effective at all. And you need to know what to do before you ever get into that. Because here's the thing, most of us are never trained to de escalate once things are already loud. We usually teach on these basic customer service approaches that are really helpful, uh, but it's not when someone's having like the worst day ever, right? When someone's like yelling and screaming at you. Because when that happens, there's not a lot of thought that's actually crossing into their brain. Same thing happens for us. So nobody trains you on what to say the moment you first feel your gut drop before anything bad has actually happened yet. So let's get into those three tactics. So tactic number one, this is the pre-escalation exit line. This is going to be something that you say the moment that you begin to notice that something has gone off, whatever that is. You start just feeling like your gut drop. You start feeling like that warm, tingly sensation that just doesn't sit right. Hair on the back of your head starts going up. You just feel off for whatever reason. You're allowed to say something. Have this written out, ready to go. So for me, I need to step out and I need to get somebody else. That's it. That's all you have to say. You're not pointing at them because that's going to escalate. You're not saying you need to leave because that's only going to escalate. You say, I need to step out. I need to go get someone else. That's it. Full stop. No apology needed. You're allowed to say that. You don't owe anyone an explanation for leaving a room. If you need to walk away, you are allowed to walk away. So why this works is that naming your exit out loud does two distinct things. One, it gives the room kind of just a beat to reset. It tells everybody who's there something's just a little bit off. We're allowed just to walk away and do that. And number two, it puts a verbal marker on record that you identified a risk in real time. All right, before anything happened, before words were exchanged, or before hands were touched, or before anybody made any contact, you identified that risk in real time, backed off. That sentence alone, that I need to step away and I need to go get someone, it took me 2 years to say that, to just learn to say that without feeling guilt and remorse inside. Because I felt that I had to go through and remain there, that I took on a duty to care for someone, so I have to stay. There's no choice. The line you say in the room only protects you in the moment. That's important. All right. What happens after is what protects you afterward. And most of us get that part wrong too. So for me, in the situation that I was involved, I was ignored. And I was told that this is just part of the job. I documented the incident clearly, and leadership never followed through. I ended up getting an ultrasound because I was physically kicked. And because of that, and because I filed an incident report, I was encouraged to consider going to a different department because that's just what happens in this department. That's what happens in this role. By the way, that was in the ER. I can tell you that after working for 10 years in the ER, that is not okay. That is not expected. That is not something that we just deal with. Okay? So please understand that if you work in the ER or anywhere in healthcare, that is not expected. Physical assault, physical abuse is never okay. So I say all that to say this. Here's what you need to do. And this is tactic number 2. Documentation within the hour, not the shift. So write down exactly what was said, exactly what was done, and the exact time within that first hour. Now, that's assuming that you've not had any like severe physical harm that is keeping you from doing anything. That's assuming that you are mentally prepared to do that. If you are capable, if you are able in that time, write down everything that happened, specific times, specific people who were present. And ideally, there should be extra people. And anybody who is there, anybody who witnessed it, anyone who heard it, they should also be completing an incident report because it helps to tell the story. Okay? There are things that you are allowed to include in your charting. You need to talk to your legal team, you need to talk to your quality team to understand what those things are. But there are certain things you can state in the patient's chart to indicate what happened. If it's a visitor, it doesn't apply, but if it's a patient, it does apply. And then if there was harm done, we'll talk about that next. So please remember, this is not done at the end of the shift. This is not the next day when someone asks. Your adrenaline, your cortisol, again, that response will clearly erase details, and you think you'll remember, but I promise you, you won't. You won't remember. As much as you would like to, you will not remember. An incident report written within that same hour holds up. One written from memory 2 days later is going to get picked apart. It's going to get picked apart by quality, by administration, by the legal team, and that's internal and external legal teams. They will pick it apart. So done on the same day within that same hour or within 2 or 3 hours later at most, that's what's ideal. It's not about covering yourself. Please understand that. We'll often say, this is a CYA kind of a deal. This is not just about covering yourself. It's about having an accurate record that exists at all. Because when it comes down to it, you got to have a record about what happened and what occurred. Please understand, what I'm about to say is not legal advice. Okay? I am not giving you legal advice. This is educational content only. It's anything on this channel, it's educational content. But please know, if there was any physical harm involved, that could mean biting, it could mean hair pulling, beard pulling, somebody just simply grabbing you, that's unwanted contact. Unwanted contact is assault. Okay, please understand that. Unwanted contact is assault. End of story. It is assault. If there's any physical contact that is unwanted, it's undesirable, you are allowed, again, check your local legal codes to determine this, you are allowed to file a formal police report. Oftentimes, policies will maybe encourage you not to do that. Leadership may encourage you not to do that. Others who have had maybe negative experiences may encourage you not to do that. You may hear that, well, we don't ever involve law enforcement because we handle things internally. That might sound nice, but that's not legit. That's not real. Okay? If there is harm that is done, you are entitled, again, check your local codes, policies, whatever, check your local law to determine this, but self-defense is a legally permissible act. You are allowed to protect yourself, and you should document that. If you did something internally, you should document there. But if there's harm that's done, you need to involve law enforcement. Within the healthcare space, there are various laws that exist. Again, you need to check your local jurisdiction. You need to check your state to see what's actually done, what's actually shared. But I live in the state of Ohio. Within the state of Ohio, it is considered, at one point, it was considered a 4th degree or a 5th degree misdemeanor which is very, very, very low as far as assaulting a healthcare worker. Other states have different guidelines with that, and it really kind of drives based on a whole bunch of qualifiers, a whole bunch of things. But within the state of Ohio, it was like a fifth degree misdemeanor after like the second offense. So if the first offense is never documented, the misdemeanor charge can never happen. If you only file incident reports internally and you never involve law enforcement, then it never counts. Okay? So if physical contact ever happened that was undesirable or is unwanted, please reach out to local law enforcement. Please ask them for their advice, their insight, their feedback, whatever. And that includes if somebody is intoxicated. That includes if somebody is they have mental health issues. Um, that includes if somebody has past criminal history. Whatever the situation is, if there is undesirable contact, please reach out and talk to someone. So before the third tactical tip, I am going to say this. There's a lot more about what I won't compromise on anymore in my book, Normal Responses. I think you'll find that a little bit helpful, and each one along the way has earned its place appropriately. Because the reality is that the first two only work if you've already decided where your line is. So you know where that kind of boundary line is, you know where that's at. The first two only work with that. Most of us are deciding that thing in real time, which is exactly when we begin to talk ourselves out of it. In that moment, you will talk yourself out of calling for backup, out of calling for law enforcement, out of calling for anybody else because you don't want to seem dramatic. You don't want to seem uh, weak, or you're worried about how it looks to your peers, uh, to anybody else. That's not appropriate. Okay, if harm happened, you have a right to go home safely at the end of the day to your family or to your cat. It doesn't matter where you're going to, but you have a right to go home safely every single day. End of story. Here's tactic number 3. This is the non-negotiable line. It is decided upon in advance, and you need to decide your line before you're in the room and not during. For me, and it's an internal thing, right? I will not be alone in a room with an escalating patient without calling for backup. If I am out in the community, I will not be alone with someone who is beginning to escalate. I will leave because it's safety. Your safety matters. You need to write yours down. You need to have it. You need to say it to a coworker so someone else knows it too. A decision made calmly in advance is often going to survive contact with adrenaline, with cortisol, with anything else. A decision that you're trying to make in the moment never works. Please understand that. I didn't leave nursing, but I got really close where I was looking up pressure washing machine prices online that night. It's real. I'm telling you that because if you've ever had moments like these, you're not overreacting. Okay? For me, what actually shifted wasn't the facility, but it was realizing the organization exists to protect the organization. It doesn't exist to protect the individual. Every person has to look out for their own safety, and you have to watch out for your coworkers too, because a lot of them have heard the same thing, that this is just part of the job, and they begin to believe it. I know I did. So, none of this fixes understaffing or facility level security gaps. That's an entirely separate conversation, but it's a real one. These 3 things are inside your control, and you can start this on the very next shift, whether that's tonight, tomorrow, or whenever. This isn't the only place that I got told that's just part of the job. Those are actually in the book. And I go through a lot more what actually is normal in this work and what gets labeled as normal because nobody really wanted to deal with it. So if you read the book, you'll walk away with a clear line between this is simply hard and this is hard because someone let it be unsafe. So you're not stuck guessing which one you're dealing with next. On the next video, I'm going to go through and talk about what facilities should do after a violent incident. And if yours is not, the questions you need to begin asking.